It was terrible. It was terrible. Really, it was very sad to see this happening. And what was even more disappointing is that after the first time when the crowd from that particular stand threw these water bottles, the police made no effort to try and go up over there to ensure it didn't happen again. What happens with our police is that they come to watch the match. They do not come to control the crowd. They were absolutely standing there with absolutely no instructions. So clearly, I think there was a lack of communication between the officials of the Orissa Cricket Association and the police. And this is something that continues to happen on Indian grounds. And I think somewhere down the line, unless we get down to a situation where the police are told, you're not there to watch the match, but you're there to watch the crowd, these things will keep happening. You've got to have a police force, maybe, every ground, which are the troublesome stands. In that, I think you need to have plainclothes policemen. You've got to have policemen with uniform to deter the crowd. And also those near the boundary ring, the boundary perimeter, should not be watching the field, but should be instead watching the field, or watching the spectators, as it happens in Australia, South Africa, England. So I think that way there is a chance of trying to nip any trouble in the bud. It's not necessarily throwing of things on the ground. There could be trouble between spectators getting into some sort of an argument and then it turning ugly. That also can be nipped in the bud, those guys removed. So I think that's something that you need to do, but unless it's done, unless there is this coordination between the officials and the police as to how to man and how to police the crowd, I think these things will keep on happening. Because the crowd gets away with it.
Right, I have to agree with you, Sunny Bhai, on that. Having covered cricket in various parts of the world, I think India is the only place where the policemen are watching the game. Everywhere else in the world, with 1/10 of the security, you will see the stewards actually looking at the crowd, not the game at all. Okay, now just going ahead, what do you think should be a deterrent now? What kind of punishment should be meted out to Cuttack to ensure this kind of thing doesn't happen? We've seen it in the past, grounds not being allowed to host matches for a certain number of years.
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit tough, because if you see, there was only that one section of the crowd which behaved that way. The rest of the crowd was very patient, despite the fact that they must have been very disappointed at the way India had played. But that crowd had been patient. So the majority of the crowd, you would say, was patient, had shown patience. But this section had certainly, been unruly with their things. Surely, I think there has to be a deterrent. You cannot allow that to happen. So I would imagine that the next time they are due for an international, that should not be given to them. Maybe it'll be another 2 years before Cuttack gets a game, and that game should not be given to them. Because and it should be announced that it's not been given because of crowd behavior. Not only that, the subsidy that the BCCI gives every year to the Orissa Cricket Association, that also should be stopped. Because if the Orissa Cricket Association does not get a match, it does not matter. As long as they're getting the subsidy from the BCCI, they'll still be quite happy. So quite clearly, a strong message has to be sent. We have in Mr. Manohar somebody who's happy to take strong steps which will ensure that this will not happen. So I'm pretty certain that the BCCI will look at it strongly and make sure that a very, very strong message is sent to not just Orissa Cricket Association, right, but all the other associations which get to host matches.
Right, Sunny, how much the players must be feeling right now, the Indian players? They've had a poor performance on the field, and then on top of that, this happens, because we're getting reactions from other former cricketers on social media, the likes of Yuvraj Singh, VVS Lakshman, Akash Chopra, all of them saying that you're actually disrespecting and insulting the players who performed. Of course, they didn't have a great day in office, but you're insulting them by doing this.
Well, I've always asked this question, when the Indian players do well, does the crowd throw valuables at them? Do they take out their necklaces? Do they take out their wristwatches? Do they take out their rings or whatever jewelry they're wearing and throw it at the ground? They don't. Then what gives them the right to throw rubbish when they do badly? If you throw valuables at the players when they're doing well, when they're winning matches for India, then maybe you're entitled to do that. But if you're not doing that, then you have no business to throw this thing. This is all, some frustration being taken out. You cannot expect India to win all the time. And again, if Orissa was a state where they were winning Ranji Trophy year after year, winning the under-19 year after year, winning everything every other cricket tournament year after year, I'll say I understand. These guys are used to winning, and therefore when they see this happening, they have got upset. But Orissa is not winning anything. So what gives you the right to, as Yuvraj and everybody has said, insulting the players? It's not just simply not on.
Right. Saibhai, now let's get to the game now. The Indian team has lost the last, 4 or the last 5 T20s that they've played. We've seen every time that they get a big total is when someone like a Virat or Rohit Sharma scores big, India get a big total on the board. The middle order, or rather the lower middle order, hasn't been contributing. Do you think now, after a sample size of, let's say, 5 to 6 games, there is a reason to worry now as far as that batting order is concerned, not firing in the middle?
Yes, I think maybe you need to look at the batting order. Maybe like South Africa have taken the bold step of pushing AB de Villiers up the order. Maybe we need to look at having Virat Kohli up the order. Maybe he's batting at 3, of course. Not that he's down the order, but maybe for him to open the batting with Rohit Sharma. I think it's time that some of the players felt some heat. I think it's time, because you cannot have this kind of a situation. I think some of the batting was pretty bad, but at the same time, I'd like to think that there was plenty of good cricket from the South Africans. So my honest advice really would be, do not be complacent. Look to get better. You've got to get better. You cannot rest on your laurels. Do not be complacent. Complacency has been the biggest bane of Indian cricket, and therefore my honest advice really is, do not be complacent, but look and strive to get better every single day.
Okay, if you were to look at that Indian batting order, Saibhai, and if I could ask you a very direct and appointed question, if you were a skipper or if you were part of the team management, would you have Ajinkya Rahane sit out? And I'm just looking at his T20 performances year after year in the IPL. He's done really well. We may consider or perceive him as a technically correct batsman, but in T20 cricket also, he's got a phenomenal record.
Yes, I'd certainly have a look at him, maybe opening the batting. Maybe if Virat is not too keen to open the batting, I'd have him open the batting, because he opens the batting for his franchise in the IPL and does exceedingly well. It's not a question of somebody who can hit the ball into the crowds. It's a matter of how you find the gaps in the initial stages when there are those field restrictions, how you hit the ball over the fielders and get the runs. Ajinkya Rahane is brilliant at chipping the ball over the fielders and getting a one bounce boundary. He's not a powerfully built man. He's not going to hit you massive sixes. Yes, he'll hit the odd 6. But I think somebody who's as well organized as Ajinkya Rahane, him sitting out in this lineup is a little hard to understand.
Who would you have him in place of? You're saying opening, would you then have him in place of Shikhar Dhawan, or would you then drop someone like a Raidu and then have him open, and that's how you arrange the batting lineup?
Yes, I think it's got to be either Raidu or Shikhar Dhawan. But Shikhar, what Shikhar brings to the team is the fact that he's a left-hander. So I would not be in a rush to drop Shikhar Dhawan. I would certainly want him to play the next game, but maybe bring Ajinkya Rahane in place of Raidu, because he's also going to lift up the fielding. He's a much better fielder than Ambati Raidu. In the deep, in the close-in, in the covers, he's very good. So I think in the field also he'll be a big plus.
Okay, now 92 runs is what India managed. It happens to the best of batting lineups, but then you never expected India to defend that total if you've only got one Neil Armstrong in the team, isn't it? You needed a couple of Neil Armstrongs for India to defend that.
Yes, I think you did. And I think what we saw was Akshar Patel being brought on so late. Now, if you don't have confidence in the man, why pick him in the team? When you have seen that 2 spinners, Harbhajan and Ravichandran Ashwin have bowled so well. Ashwin picked up those 3 wickets. Harbhajan bowled well, didn't get a wicket, but he bowled well, restricted the batsman. Then why bring Suresh Raina on before Akshar Patel? If Akshar Patel is your 3rd spinner, then Akshar Patel should have come into bowl. Instead, we had Bhuvneshwar Kumar, etc. coming into bowl. And therefore, I believe that if you don't have the faith in Akshar Patel, don't pick him. Yeah. I believe that he's actually been rushed into international cricket a little too soon on the basis of the odd performance here and there. I think you've got to look for consistency in performance even in domestic cricket. You've got to look for consistency in performance if IPL is going to be the criteria. You've got to look for consistency in performance in the IPL before you're given the India cap. I think Akshar Patel certainly has the potential. I'm not saying that he's not there, but he's still young, and I think it'll make a lot of good for Indian cricket If he can play a little bit more of the domestic cricket, get that experience, get the confidence from doing well at that level, and then come back to international cricket.